A common trope in stories is an overpowered character that can do no wrong. I've made more than a few of these in my past, and today I'm going to look at one of them and try to give them some interesting characteristics so they wouldn't get called a Mary Sue if I posted this on Tumblr in 2012. Their main character trait is still going to be overpowered superhero though, so I'm not totally throwing away the core of the character. Let's start with some old drawings and a bit of background and history. Set in the year 2222, Earth is populated mostly by people and animals with superpowers. Being a superhero isn't an uncommon job title, and some of them have millions of fans. There are superhero schools where students compete, but for the most part real superheroes aren't fighting each other. They're still ranked by their fans, kind of like a fantasy football thing. I don't know anything about fantasy football, so don't question me more about that. Even though being a superhero is obviously in the field of law enforcement or sometimes animal control, it makes money more like an entertainment job and sometimes feels more like the latter. The superhero schools I mentioned before make most of their revenue from those student competitions. Like I said before, being a superhero still falls under law enforcement, so they can do a lot of things that regular citizens can't, for better or for worse. Still, they're not entirely their own boss. There are lots of private companies that hire superheroes, the most famous of which are the Superhero Corporation in Asia, Eon LLC in the Americas, and the Quark Corporation in Europe and Africa. Only one well-known superhero isn't a part of any of these, someone who's widely considered number one. Lastly, for the background, Jupiter is in the asteroid belt. No, that won't pay off later. Tori Lionhart is inarguably the number one superhero in the world. She cooperates directly with the higher levels of government and the FBI rather than having a superhero company as a middleman. She can do this because she was there when the government was built. She's 151 years old, and even though she was just a kid when the world as we knew it fell, she was a huge part in building it back up. She's a descendant of the first superhero from a time when not nearly as many people had superpowers, but I'll talk about all that lore later. Let's get back to how she's not the kind of character that can do no wrong. Well, she's kind of quiet, I guess. She's the brooding type. Yeah, I'm not helping my case against 2012 Tumblr. Let me talk more about her history while I stall for time and think about how she's a well-made character. In 2084, Tori was a 13-year-old kid who was raised by her mother. This is because her father was literally a comic book supervillain who caused the zombie apocalypse. Superpowers are caused by a virus called the Potence virus that affects babies in the womb. They'll start to notice their superpowers once they hit puberty, and they're different for everyone. These powers might be passed on in some way or another to their children. Sometimes it's a minor detail, though other times it's a direct passing on or even addition of both the parents' abilities. Tori's father had 4 individually powerful abilities from his parents and grandparents, enabling him to take over the world with just a little politician power. Tori's ability, though, is just that she sweats and generates uranium in her left arm. She was able to build armor that collects this uranium safely to power various gadgets and weapons within it. Tori lived in the New York area. The zombie apocalypse only affected animals, including humans, who weren't affected by the Potence virus. This caused most of the non-superpowered population to die, and it's the reason most of Earth's population has superpowers. It was created by Hyrule Lionhart, who went by the name Joker because he was an edgy bastard. No, it has to do with playing cards and the lore of his superpowers, but that's not important right now. He did it in a majorly successful attempt to genocide non-superpowered individuals, which, yeah, that does sound like something a comic book supervillain would do. He took over in 2083, so by 2084 there was a lot of anarchy. Like I said, most of the survivors were super, so all of a sudden it didn't mean as much as it used to in society. There was a coliseum where many people would gather to watch people forced to fight for entertainment. The final winner would be allowed to join a group of mercenaries that would kill off zombies and expand the safe territory. Tori got caught up in this and she was never quite the same after. In a fierce battle where many of her closest friends died, Tori ended up landing the final blow and killing her father. Though she wasn't the mastermind in most cases, she was a big part of rebuilding society, especially as she got older. In 2099, a new villain arose. New York was still in ruins for the most part, But at this point, Tori was a full-on superhero. She used her power to help with energy for all sorts of things, but she also did animal control and the occasional crime fighting. Her nuclear power was incredibly powerful, and she was generally considered as not someone to mess with. However, some seemingly generic bad guy had a powerful ability that spread black energy sapping vines. He could fight off other superheroes, and Tori's high energy attacks only made the villain stronger. She almost lost her life against this villain, but was saved by what she mysteriously described as a monster horse. The pressure she went through brought out her potential in a new superpower in her right arm: Black Fire. It's very unusual for someone to discover a new superpower in their adulthood, but not totally unheard of. Her Black Fire feels cold, absorbing energy and mass. All that goes back into her left arm to release more energy, eventually inspiring her to add nuclear bazookas to her supersuit. The Black Fire allowed her to finish off that villain by absorbing the energy instead of adding to it. Now that her power was complete, she really started to outshine the other super competition. She took all the black out of her supersuit, apart from her right arm, to remind her of the near-death experience. As time went on, she just never seemed to age. Maybe it was part of her superpower? Maybe it had to do with the new ability? In 2171, she retired after her 100th birthday, though she came back after a year due to rising tensions between other superheroes and the world in general. What no one knew at the time was that she had given birth. She had never been in any romantic relationships that the public knew about, but you can imagine there were tons of rumors and stories about what had happened. In 2222, her son Archer is a detective that works with the FBI. His superpower is that he can tell the age of any living thing, which is super useful for that whole detective thing. As much as everyone loves his mom, he doesn't have a very good relationship with her. She didn't totally neglect him, but often shows her his duties as a superhero over her own son. He's got his own life though. He's a single dad of wannabe superhero twin girls, though he usually focuses more on his job than he focuses on them. Hey wait, that sounds familiar. Those kids have their own lives too, but the reality is they're not very important to Tori. She would babysit them sometimes when they were little, but they seem to be pretty scared of her. No one else understands why they're not happy about the Tori Lionhart coming to teach at their superhero school when everyone else is ecstatic. This is the art of Tori from 2222 I made for this video. She's a living legend loved by all but those who know her best. Anything she wears becomes a trend, with tons of kids trying to emulate her supersuit. It's considered unlucky to wear black on the day she almost died, and some of her biggest superfans don't wear black at all. Her superpowers create a destructive loop of energy from absorption to release that makes her a nigh unbeatable opponent. She's clearly gotten bored of immortality, but people say she'll devote her eternal and meaningless existence to make sure others can have peace. Experts believe crime rates would increase by orders of magnitude if she were to retire. Let's hope nothing happens that would stop her, because the world sure seems like it would be doomed without Tori Lionhart. Okay, that's it for the world building. Hopefully y'all think she's a cool and or interesting character with enough flaws to be realistic. I mean, she has superpowers, so she's not realistic, but you get what I mean. Honestly, I've always thought she was really cool. She was kind of the first character of this Earth setting I made. I drew this when I was 15. Weird how, when I was that young, my brain kinda equated 13-year-olds with adults, and then sometime between then and now I started to see 13-year-olds as kids, which they are. I mean, some people probably think of me as a kid too, but like, 13-year-olds are kids. No offense to 13-year-olds, y'all will get it when you're older. Hopefully. Anyway, I don't know why I went on that tangent, sorry. What I meant by Earth setting earlier, should I just repeat that whole thing? Tori was the first character of the Earth setting I made. Kinda. If you're familiar with my channel, you're probably familiar with Origin. If not, you should be. Spec Evo is by far my best content. I don't know why y'all are watching this one. Please keep watching though, thanks. What I was saying though was that Origin and this Earth are in the same universe. Everything I make pretty much is, unless it's Pokemon or... well, the history and evolution is technically canon to the Origin universe, since nothing on Earth changed till recently like I said, but no. Mechatyrannosaurus Cyberrex Overkill is not canon too. Someday I'd like to make this superhero Earth stuff into a comic book though. I'd probably start with a 2084 story, then move on to 2022, or 2222, but yeah, I don't know, a girl can dream. Not like I've started writing anything though. I've started writing anything. Anyway, what I meant to say by all that was that it's hard to make a character cool without their setting, and for most of my videos I have a hard time because I don't want to reveal all the details in case I actually make the game, or in this case the comic book. Yeah, I'm also working on a game show of a girl can dream. Anyway, God, I really do say anyway a lot. I need to work on that. I can share a bit about some behind the scenes stuff with her design. That's the fun part about these videos. If I really do make all that media, people can look back at these old videos and say, wow, she's so cool, she really thought about all this, and everyone's gonna love me. Okay, I'm gonna be serious now. Tori's superpower being nuclear and black fire actually do have a theme, even if it's pretty loose. Riley Purple is a character who debuted in one of my earlier making a character videos. She's actually Tori's grandma, maybe you can see the resemblance. Her powers are called the Black Suits because she got them from her parents, one of whom was a famous gambler who was known as Spades. At the time, people didn't know superpowers were real, so they couldn't get him in trouble for reading minds. He married a girl named Clover, and the Black Suits became a thing that Riley borrowed when she became a superhero. Tori's grandpa on the same side is Jojo Lionhart, who's the same age as Riley, it's just that these are from different times. His first superpower was that he could control energy and store it like a battery, and the second one had to do with matter. He could change the formation of atoms and molecules to make something new, like dividing CO2 into elemental oxygen and carbon, the latter of which he forged into sturdy carbon fiber. Theoretically, he could also do something like clump 3 helium atoms into a carbon-12 atom. He had the same deal with inheriting his abilities as an addition of both his parents, and the playing card red suits thing caught on after he married Riley. That's why their edgy world domination weirdo of a son decided to call himself Joker. It was a playing cards thing. But yeah, the red suit's abilities were powers about energy and matter. So Tori's nuclear obviously has to do with energy, specifically from splitting matter. That matter is uranium, which her body generates by clumping a ton of other atoms together in a process similar to the original matter ability. Black fire is more direct with how it absorbs both matter and energy and converts them into something usable for her nuclear ability to release. Wow, that sure was a lot of words to say something that sounded way cooler in my head. I tried looking into my old drawings to try to figure out why she has purple hair, but I guess it's just leftovers from when I was more into anime and the whole thing was a JoJo ripoff. Technically, Tori's aunt, that I didn't talk about because she's not important right now, was the first character in this whole thing, and then Shuri, who's Tori's mom, came after. Then I made Tori about a week and a half later after it stopped being a JoJo ripoff. But yeah, that's why Tori's granddad's name is JoJo. It's an homage to early in this story's development. But yeah, I think that's all I got for today. I hope that last bit was interesting and not completely useless and boring. At the very least, I sure had fun looking back at my old drawings to try to make sense out of stuff. Check out my Patreon where you can support me for just $1 a month and get your name at the end of my videos. Thanks Captain Copop and Art of Dying. My next making a character video will be about a girl with a comically large hammer. I'll finally get to talk a bit more about one of my other stories, which I've only ever talked about in my first making a character video about Mika Lumen. Hope to see you there, and again, thanks so much for watching.